Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Arif and today I would like to give a presentation about my site in Sungai Lembing, which is the heritage road towards the promoting the mining landscape. And today I will start with the site analysis. Okay, first we have to defining the significance of the site, which is divided into two, which is the determine whether a rural property meets the national register criteria and to guide decisions about integrity and boundaries. Okay, the national register criteria is that can be applied to the study area of as a whole and to smaller properties within it. And it is the existing characteristic of the study area to the themes and property types recognized as important by the area historic context. Okay, there are four types of criteria, which is the associates, events and history, associate with important person, distinctive physical characteristic, and lastly the provide past history info. Okay, in my site study, I found only two criteria, which is criteria A and criteria C. Okay, first we move to the criteria A, which is the associates, events, and history. The definition of criteria A is about the association with the events or the activities which related to the site history. It is most likely to be as a significant activity to the site study itself. Okay, I have found two about the activities of the history related, which is first is the mining. Okay, the mining area is now utilized as the tourism sector for the site study and for the economical aspect. And Sungai Lembing mine is the main significant historical activities in the study because the visitors can experience riding the mini train to enter the mining tunnel and to experience our late ancestors about their mining activities in the tunnel. Next, as for the criteria A is the museum, which is the museum is keeping the archaeological craftsmanship from the our late ancestors as the historical value in this area. And the criteria A have a good significance to establishment of the historical landscape in Sungai Lembing. Next, we have the criteria C, which is the distinctive physical characteristic. Okay, the definition of the criteria C is embodying the distinctive characteristic of a type of period or the method of construction. It is the distinguishable entity whose components may lack individual distinction. And about the criteria C, which is the physical characteristic of Sungai Lembing building, I found several characteristics, which is the building, posts and windows. Okay, first we go to the plan. This is the plan view of Sungai Lembing, which consists of settlement, commercial and tourism and historic spaces. And Sungai Lembing is still maintain the traditional landscape elements. Then we go to the building form. This is the building form still have the traditional landscape elements that present the historical value of the site itself. Next, the building have the significant post, which is used for the parking area and the activities for the local people. And the window, traditional window that can allow the movement of air that can give a cooling element from the outside of the building to the inside of the building. Next, we can see the physical characteristic of the building from the settlement area to the historic space area. This is the still have the cultural physical form buildings that look aesthetic to the site itself. Okay, next, the criteria that doesn't associate with my site, which is criteria B and criteria D, which is the both of them establish no significance in evaluations of historic landscape in Sungai Lembing. And for the evidence supporting criteria, I've used three methods, which is interviewing the people, capturing the picture, and experiencing into the site itself. And the NR criteria is a foundation on which make a statement for the creation of a rural landscape of Kampung Sungai Lembing. And the landscape is under criteria A, while criteria C is strengthen the evidence that the study is for the creation of rural landscape. And the table shown that only criteria A and C that have a significance to the site area. Okay, next we move to the next part, which is the site synthesis. Okay, for the introduction, the historic integrity threatened by single major changes such as large-scale farming practices that obliterate historic spaces, area that can affect to all the surrounding area integrity. And first, we go to the overview of the site, which is the Sungai Lembing has a few changes and threats to be highlighted. It is divided into three groups, which is social, physical, and environmental issue. The environmental issue in this study can give a major impact of the surrounding area. Okay, first we go to the poor waste management. There are poor waste management at the outside the Pasar Sungai Lembing area that can create a pollution to the environmental impacts. The poor waste management at this area also can contribute and lead to the bad view of this area itself. Next, the issue is the lack of exposures of the historical spaces. As we can see in this picture, they have a lack of exposure such as the entrance for each of the historical spaces. And the entrance needed to help giving an exposure to the area, and it also can enhance the sense of navigation for the user. And it is also lack of exposure can cause the spaces unutilized wisely that can cause abandoned potential spaces. Next, we have the lack of linkages between spaces, and you can see the map. The yellow one is the potential area and the red one is the issue in this area. Okay, there are some major problems in the site study, which is the lack of linkages between each of the historic spaces. This makes the user unaware of some spaces that can make some spaces not lively, which is the center of this area. The center of the area are not lively, that can make the linkage between the museum and the mining area are not linked together because of this area. Which is the section view is this is the Sungai Lembing mines and the Sungai Lembing, but this is area have unutilized space between historic space, makes the linkage not appear to this area. And finally, we have the poor alternative road condition. There are poorly maintained alternative roads for the user, and the conditions of the alternative are poorly maintained in this site study. This will make the user needs to use primary road that make them further to walk, and it also can give a risk of safety for the user, which is in this picture the alternative road does not well maintained and the alternative bridge also have collapsed. And for the way of overall integrity, the landscape in Sungai Lembing is retained significant cultural and natural values and documented signification of the element of evaluation by the NRC and consideration. In the presence of the development can lead to some issues such as waste management and poor alternative road. But the development also can help to solve some issues such as the linkage between spaces and exposures of historic spaces. Next, we move to the next synthesis board, which is this. Okay, the introduction for this board is the composite map of Sungai Lembing landscape. They have potential area that can give impact to the surrounding area. This site has their own unique characteristic that can create potential, but there are several issues that can be found during the site study. The observation that I have made, I have divided into three classifications, which is social aspect, environmental aspect, and physical aspect. Okay, next we move to the side issues of this site study, which is the lack of. First, we have the lack of linkages between the historic space, and this is the major problem of this area of the linkages that can make the spaces are not lively. And second, we have the lack of exposures of historical spaces, and the entrance is needed to create the historic spaces become more lively. And third, we have the poor waste management. And fourth, we have the poor alternative road conditions that, like I have explained to the previous spot. Okay, this is my composite map, and the yellow one is the potential area, and the red one is the issues area. The arrow for the blue is for the good view, and the orange for the bad view. And this is the main road of this site study. Okay, first you can see the a possible entrance that can be provided to this area to create a sense of welcoming to each part of Sungai Lembing, starting from the settlements to the mining and tourism area, which is in this area. Okay, then the poorly maintained alternative road at this area will make the user harder to have a shortcut from one area to another area. It also can bring harm of the safety for the user to utilize the alternative route. Next, near to the Pasar Sungai Lembing, they have unused waste is being thrown at the back of the Pasar Sungai Lembing, which can cause a bad view near to the compound area. Next, we have the linkages in this area that need to this area, which is have the potential to be center of the landmark for this site study. This place needs enhancing to create introvert nodes that can make the sense of movement towards all the area. And next, we have the unutilized space to this area that can be enhanced to create the proper linkages between other areas, which is the museum and the mining area. This will help the linkages between them properly. And finally, we have the possible enhancement to the mining area, which is the entrance that can lead to the attraction for the user. It also will help this area easily can be recognized to create the sense of welcoming, since this area are far away from the other spaces, which is the commercial area, the settlement area, and the tourism area. Okay, finally we have the site significance, which is in the section view. They have a unutilized space. This area have a potential to create a proper linkage between the other area. This area will also help the linkage between museum, Sungai Lembing, and Sungai Lembing mining area. And about this unutilized space, it also can be enhanced to create the linkages between settlement area and the historic spaces area. I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.